Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hey, on today's podcast, I am super excited to introduce to you Zach Spuckler. So Zach and I have known each other for a little while, orbiting each other's worlds, and we met through Kimra Luna. So I am so excited to introduce you to Zach Spuckler. This podcast has got loads of juicy nuggets, so get your notepads out. Hello and a warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, and we're another episode of the $1 Million Lab series. Today, I am joined by the amazing Zach Spuckler, and he has spent the past 5 years really kind of being a bit of a Facebook wizard and building his business. And he's created lots of different things that I'm going to let him introduce you into. He's been featured on podcasts like Entrepreneur on Fire, Online Marketing Made Easy, Mind Your Business podcast, and the Art of Paid Traffic podcast. So because of his spectacular launches. So we're going to talk a lot about launching probably with Zach and all the things business and being an entrepreneur. So Zach, please introduce yourself to our audience and a very warm welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Hey, everybody. My name is Zach Spuckler. My company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle. And we work with digital businesses, course creators, coaches, consultants to basically help them scale up with Facebook ads, launches, and strategic marketing. And I started about 5 years ago. It'll be 6 in about a week, 2 weeks. And, I really got my start online. Just one of the things that we stood behind is we never wanted to teach something we hadn't done. And when we first started, Periscope was really big. If you guys remember Periscope.
I remember it.
Like the new Periscope. And we basically were like, we got a few clients from there. People started asking us how. And over the years, it's just snowballed to the point where we've now worked behind the scenes of, launches ranging from $3,000 to $300,000 for clients. I run my own 6-figure launches. We have, gone through many iterations of the business, including the agency model, the course model. We've done some really incredible stuff, I like to think. And so I'm just really excited to be here to talk about it, but we can dig in wherever you want. That's the super quick and dirty intro. And, now we've done really, really well. I've moved from Ohio to California and get to live my life on my terms, and no complaints here.
Which is awesome. So let's take you back through the sands of time. So 5 years ago when you first started, tell us a little about where you were in terms of like what kind of prompted you moving online? Was it something you always wanted to do, or was it like what brought you here basically?
I always love this question because, when I started online, I was actually 12. And I know this because I actually started filling out like surveys online, like to generate money. Like this is like super old school. I don't even know if you can do it anymore.
You can still do it.
You can still do it. I love it. So that's how I started. And I know I started before I was 13 because you have to be 13 to do it. And I basically pretended to be my dad and use his information. And he luckily paid the taxes for me, which was really nice. But, that's kind of how I started. I've always been fascinated by this idea of being financially independent, being, making money out of nothing, whether it be a service, a course, a survey, it didn't matter. And over time, I graduated through several iterations of revenue generation. So I started with surveys. I've done stuff, it's called pay-to-click advertising, which people are familiar with pay per click, but pay to click is where you get paid to click on ads, like a penny per click. And then crazy days, we generated like $10,000 doing that. Super bizarre, but that's the internet for you. And then I moved into a little more, this was when I was like 14. So I moved into more like legitimate revenue, which was I did freelance writing for a little while for SEO. I did MLM. I've done, website flipping, affiliate marketing. But ultimately, after all those years, what happened was I realized there was this common thread. And what really lit me up was the marketing. So it's like when I was doing pay to click advertising, I liked the idea of recruiting affiliates, right? Because that's how I generated my revenue. Now, in that case, you could actually buy affiliates, which was this just fascinating concept to me. But I liked the idea of like investing my money to make more money. When I was doing freelance writing, I actually found a groove. I found a guy who hired me long-term, and I used to just write all the time. I had my first job when I was 14, and I worked for 4 years in a call center. But what I've always loved is just this idea of like, you can pretty much do anything to generate revenue. But the common thread was that I loved the marketing. So I liked marketing myself to find a long-term client. I liked marketing myself to build up my referral base. I liked marketing my websites to flip them. When I was in MLM, I was one of the, I like to think one of the first people to actually run Facebook ads. And I used to, I was never uber successful with MLM, but what I did do that was kind of cool was I ran Facebook ads and people started messaging me and calling me to get their products, which like, when I was doing MLM, it would have been 2013, 14.
Okay.
You just didn't do that back then. You like
recruited
your friends, or you got business cards, or you connected with people at the mall. So that was like, I don't want to say revolutionary because everybody was running Facebook ads, but it was just different. It was like, instead of pushing my content, I was attracting people with marketing. And I think when I started doing that, that's when the light bulb really switched, that I was like, I actually love marketing. Like, all of the revenue generation is cool, but what's really getting me geeked up is marketing. And then right before I started Heart, Soul, and Hustle, I had a food blog. We took it from 0 views to 25,000 views a month in 6 months with Pinterest. And that was like mind-boggling. And I started doing some blogging coaching. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm selling courses, I'm selling content, I'm driving traffic. Why don't I just do what I really want to do, which is just talk marketing? And like I kind of mentioned earlier, like when we started, I went on Periscope and I just started talking about Facebook ads because that's what I knew. I had used Facebook ads to fill up webinars in my other business. And I just started talking about it. And after about 30 days, we had gained our first 4 clients, and people were like, how are you getting clients? What are you doing? And so I took this stand, the craziest story. This is how Heart, Soul, and Hustle really got its start. I basically said, okay, I can't teach you how to get more than 4 clients. Like, that's what I've done, right? So I can't be like how to grow a 6-figure business, how to create a funnel, how to do all this stuff. But I got on Periscope, which is very similar to Facebook Live. So if I'm being too cryptic with the word Periscope, it's like I'm dating myself in internet years. But I got on Periscope and I basically said, hey, if you would be interested, let me know, and I will create a course for $97 on how I'm getting clients. And what was so crazy is that people were like, I'd buy it right now. I'd buy it right now. And so I was like, if you guys would really buy it right now, and people were like, give us a link, give us a link, give us a link. So I literally created a PayPal button, set up a redirect while I was on a live stream, and we did $1,200. And I was like, this is pretty darn cool. We went on to do about $2,200 on that very first launch, and it's just scaled since then. And it's been amazing, right? And now we have courses ranging from, Facebook ads to challenges to course launches. And it's been a wild journey. So
it's been amazing. So I originally met you from Kimra's World, who's also been on our podcast. And when we started, so I have seen this meteoric rise of like you building and building and, like being kind of like, I didn't know that you had been on the internet for as long as you had, but it seemed like you were kind of new and things like that. So I started kind of seeing, but I've seen like how you've shifted and pivoted and changed and morphed and things like that. And it's one of the things I've always really admired about watching your journey, because you've always given me the impression that you're never afraid to try something new, that you're always willing to innovate, you're always willing to try something new. And this is it's a trait that I really admire in entrepreneurs, that they are willing to experiment and they are willing to try new things and new ways of doing things. So in that time that you have tried a bunch of stuff, what has been some of your wins, but what has been some of like, oh, let's not talk about that.
Yeah. So one of our big wins was we had $174,000 launch on one of our programs, and that was just really cool. And it took a lot of effort. And just to kind of talk briefly on that, I had a mentor who basically said to me, you know, I think what a lot of us do when we're getting started is we kind of shoot from the hip. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's how a lot of people start, and I highly recommend it. And I'm a huge advocate of like, just take action, just do it. Like the secret to making it work is to just start, right? So I'm a huge advocate for that mindset. And but after a while, that kind of that will hit a ceiling, right? So if you're just constantly starting things, you hit a ceiling. And so one of my losses was that for the first couple of years in business, I like could not pass a $20,000 launch. Like I would do 22, 18, 20, and I was just stuck right there. And I talked to a mentor of mine, and he was like, well, that's because you're launching every 30 seconds. He's like, all you're doing is just marketing yourself constantly. If instead of just pushing content out for the sake of generating revenue really quick and fast, what if you stepped back, planned for a couple of months, did some kind of building, and then launched? And so, you know, like I was really kind of beating my head against the wall because I was like, why can't we do more? And once we kind of stepped back and started planning, that made a huge difference to our business. And so now, you know, I wish I could say like, that was a big lesson for me, and now I plan everything. I still shoot from the hip quite a bit, but I've gotten better at it where I'm not just like, you know, what I used to do is just like spontaneously create. And now what I do is like, I talk to my team and we plan things out. And this year is like the first year that we actually sat down. We're reading a book together about organizational structure. We planned out the year together. We planned out the quarter together. We planned out what we're doing for the next 8 weeks. And so, you know, my win and my loss at the same time was like, the loss was realizing that if you just start everything, you can't finish anything. And my win was like when I actually planned it out, it went really.
I love that. I love that.
And so
I'm known to my students as the queen of planning. So one of my courses is actually called Divine Planning, Abundant Profits. So I teach people how to plan, and I also teach people like you that shoot from the hip how to plan, because we want to be able to still go with the flow and the inspiration, but also as well, we want that regular income. It's so important to have that, you know, to factor in, you know, the regular income. And I think the plan also allows you to reach that higher levels, just like what happened with you. But we don't want to squeeze the creativity out of being an entrepreneur, because that otherwise we might as well just get a regular job. So if we're going to be an entrepreneur, we might as well, like, it should have some benefits, the fact that we can explore our creativity and have an idea for something and, you know, the next day put it out, which I think is so important. So I love that you're still doing a mixture of that, but now you're like coordinating more with your team and everything. And growing your team, obviously you 5 years ago you didn't have a team. So let's talk a little bit about growing a team, because that, I know there's going to be some people that are just not ready for that at all that's listening to this, but I know that the people that are that, you know, are ready for growing a team. I faced a lot of challenges growing my team, because I ended up I did the classic rookie mistake. I was the bottleneck in my business. Did it go smooth sailing for you, or was it?
No, I think for sure I've been the bottleneck in my business, and I still am to some extent, you know, and that's one of the reasons my team and I are actually reading the book Traction right now.
Okay.
We're just trying to get organizational structure better. But what we're doing, you know, in terms of hiring a team, we were really strategic, and we actually hired somebody offline.
Okay.
And I hired somebody who had really great experience in a corporate space. I hired offline, and this is so funny. They used to come to my house once a week, and we would just work in the kitchen.
Wow, that sounds
I
great.
moved to California. So they're still in Ohio, and I could not lose them because they're so incredible. If you're listening, Jessica, could not do it without you. And so she used to come to my house every Tuesday, and you know, what would happen was she would basically be like, "Here's what you need to do." And what has worked exceptionally well for me from the time that I hired to even now is that I come from a very, I don't want to say beginner's mindset because I don't think that's quite what it is. But even my very first hire, that wasn't my first hire. That was when I got like serious and started getting more organizational. My first hire, I hired somebody who was online, VA, trained, comes with a premium rate. But I just told them, like, I don't know what I need. I just know I need help. And what that has done, I think unintentionally, is really empowered my team to step up and tell me what needs to be done. So like I've had very candid conversations with my team that I'm like, if I'm not doing something, just tell me. If something's not working, just tell me. And creating, I learned this term from a mentor of mine. He said, psychological safety. People need to feel safe in their job. They need to feel secure in their job. And so as we morph and pivot, it's always been really important to me to tell my team, like, you guys are safe. Like, we're not going to do something that's going to jeopardize you or jeopardize the business. Yes, it's a big experiment, but you guys are safe. That's been really important to me. But in terms of like making it easy, I think just coming from that place of like, I just need help. And I think, as entrepreneurs, we're afraid to ask for help, and we think we have to be like the boss and we have to like know all the things. But when I met with my very first hire, I was like, my inbox is a nightmare and I don't know what to do about it. Like, what do we do? Right. And she was like, I'm going to create a system for you. We'll take care of it. It's probably going to take 2 to 6 weeks, but like, once we get it in, we're good to go. And now I don't do a lot with my email. I probably check my email. I do check it every day, but what happens now is I wake up, I log into Slack, and my team says, here's what you need to do today. And that has been a massive shift from how we used to operate 4 years ago. But I really think it started from 3 things. I think it started from empowering the team to help me make decisions, creating an atmosphere of psychological safety, and then planning, like we talked about. Putting those 3 things in place.
I love that.
My team knows what's coming. I know what's coming. And like literally I woke up this morning and my integrator, my right hand, was like, here's what to do today. Besides client calls, you're good. And then don't forget to run through the support email just to see if anybody needs anything. And the support email, just to clarify, is like, I'm not managing the support inbox. It's like when something comes through where somebody's asking like a technical question or a logistical question.
Right. Okay. You need to respond.
If we want to take them on as a client, it gets forwarded to me and I reply, or I put it in a folder and I add it into my courses or my content.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. So when I hired, my first experience of hiring a team was, I ended up with like getting really annoyed that they were asking me for jobs. Because I ended up as a bottleneck. So I had all my work to do. And then I had this envisioned that this team member was going to help me and it was going to be all so smooth. And then, of course, it wasn't, because they were looking to me to give them the jobs. And I was like, but I'm busy. And so I was the nightmare. It was not my team members. My team members were amazing. And I was like the nightmare. So in the end, I had to like really surrender to allowing myself to be supported, allowing other people space in the business as well. Because I realized I was that mean kid in the sandbox that chucks everybody out. And it's like my sandbox, and I had to let like other people come and play my sandbox to help me and support me. And I know that this is like a common thing where people can often become the bottleneck in the business. So for me, it's interesting to hear how you've done it and your team kind of come with you, because I come to you and tell you what you need to do today, which sounds, one half of me is going, that sounds blissful. The other half is like breaking out in hives going, oh my God, so I obviously have serious trust issues that I need to work through there. So now what you're doing, and you've recently started like a product-based business as well, like a little passion business. Tell us a little bit about that, because I love this.
Yeah, stuck in quarantine, my partner and I thought, why don't we just start a little fun little business? And so it's actually as well morphed and evolved. We started as a crystal company. And so we would source crystals internationally from the US. We tried to get ethically sourced crystals. And we would resell them on Instagram. So we started as a resale business. And my partner at the time, or still is, he's still my partner. He was like, I really want like a creative aspect to this business. I want to make candles out of crystals to go with it. And I was really reluctant. I was like, I don't know. That's like 2 businesses in one. I don't know about that. I don't know if we could keep up the demand. And what ended up happening is we did the crystals for a while. We're still kind of doing it a little bit, but we're trying to sell off the rest of our inventory. And we pivoted to a crystal candle business, which I've been more vocal about on social, and like we're growing a brand around it because this really geeks me up because it's very hands-on, very creative. And we started that business, and this is like the perfect example. This is so funny. My partner was like, we need to be like totally prepared and ready to go before we launch. And I was like, no, I think we make 4 candles and we just start selling them. Like we'll figure it out as we go. We'll build our wings on the way down. He's such a like a type A, everything in its place, and I'm just a type B, like we'll just make it happen. And we have made it happen. It's been pretty cool. That the candle business iteration has been around for about 3 weeks from the time we're doing this. We've done about $3,600 in sales. And we're figuring out so much about this business. Like we're like, oh my gosh, there's, the online course world. I don't think we realize how spoiled we are, because like we're looking at margins and packaging and delivery, and we're shipping candles that are made out of glass. So we're looking at shipping durability. We're looking at custom designed boxes. And then, Facebook ads are totally a different ballgame with e-commerce. So we're studying, Facebook ads and marketing, and we're growing an email list. But I will say what's really cool is that a lot of the information that I've learned from this space is transferring over, just in like in a slightly different variation. So like we are building an email list, and I'm not threatened by going into, it's called Klaviyo, which is like purely for e-commerce. So if you're listening to this, don't go down that rabbit hole of being like, maybe that's the best software. It's purely for e-commerce, but that's been really, really, really cool to be like, I can just send out an email. I'll just market this business. And we're still figuring everything out, full transparency, because I'm all about the transparency. Is like, it's not a wildly profitable business yet. We like sat down after we did about 2,000 to 3,000 in sales, and we're like, okay, let's look at our costs, let's look at our revenue, and we're spending way too much on Facebook ads. So what I've done, and this is like the full circle moment, is I invested in a course about Facebook ads and handmade business. So I bought the course, I'm going through it. I am like, in a way, like the CMO, like the chief marketing officer, and he's more operations and things like that. And so I'm just learning how to market it, and we're just growing and evolving. And I think, one thing to just kind of throw out there is when I started talking about having this side business, I was really, really afraid because I thought, well, if I'm doing this other business, what are people going to think? Right. And we can kind of open this as a conversation or close it as a loop, whatever makes sense for you. But I was very afraid, because I was like, well, are people going to be like, well, his course business must not be doing well, or he can't focus on one thing, or, all of these thoughts. But what I ultimately came back to was 3 things. 1, it's not my business what other people think of me. That's their problem, not mine. 2, it's no different than having a job and a passion project. It's profitable, or it makes money, but it's just a passion project. I go back.
I was just very jealous, because I mean, like candles and crystals is like catnip to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, that just sounds so much fun.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that the other thing is like, it's an escape for me, right? Because I think as entrepreneurs, what we don't realize is that our brain is constantly working. Like most entrepreneurs I talk to, they're like, I've got all these ideas, or like we do that thing where we're like on our laptop for 12 hours. We maybe only do 4 hours of work, but we're like thinking or studying or reading or downloading the PDFs or watching the course. And it's like, we're always on. And when I'm making candles, I am off. And that is really nice. Like my head's not thinking about my clients. I'm not doing 2 things at once. Not that I don't love my clients, and not that they don't get care, but I'm not like in my head 20.
No, but I think it makes you a more effective entrepreneur if you have things that you can switch off with, like meditations, like my jam. Another thing that's really satisfying for me is to go out for a walk in the forest and like just be for a moment, because I get what you mean with that energy of just being on. And I think that if we're on too long, like any appliance, we start to overheat. right? And you're not as effective. Maybe the fan starts making that whirly noise, right, in your brain. But what happens is when you get that opportunities to switch ourselves off, and I have lots of creative outlets. I do arts and paint. I used to monetize them, but I don't anymore. But so I just paint for the joy of it, and just allow myself to do these things. But when I do that, when I come back, I find that in my entrepreneur role, I become more potent. And I would imagine the same is happening for you, because there's a Zen thing to creating something where you have to be all in and your brain can't go in the background. You have to be you just have to be focused, especially when you're being creative. And I suppose when you're handling hot wax, you really need to have your eyes on the ball, you really need to be checking out what you're doing, right? So I love that you've got this creative business, because I think that as entrepreneurs, we tend to be natural creatives. And it's nice to also to have an actual purely creative outlet, like you're making something. And I mean, one of the things that I came from a different background. So I had my own retail stores. So I know what you've gone into, right? It's margins and stock that goes off and all, I know all the things and I love online business for that reason, because I came from the retail. But there is times, I get really excited. So I make products sometimes, books and journals, and we create things in the business, and I get so excited to create an actual physical product. There's nothing so amazing as to hold a physical product in your hand that that you've designed and come up with and done. I've created oracle decks and things like that, and we've got an oracle deck in the pipeline at the moment, and it's just so fun to hold that product. And I think it's that, when you've been a farmer in the field and you're look at the crop afterwards and you're so satisfying. And I think, you're probably enjoying a lot of that, what I call the farmer energy, where you've planted the seeds, you've tended the thing, and now you can see the bounty of the crop, which is amazing. So tell us what your candle company is called so people can check you out.
Absolutely. We are the Calming Oasis. We're on Instagram, just thecalmingoasis.com. We're on Facebook. We're still small time, small fry, but we're working on it. So.
Oh, quite right. Well, let's give it a little shameless plug and get people looking at it, because I thought they looked ace. I thought they looked really great. So tell us what your plans are for the future at the moment, because obviously we've got this candle business, which is a passion project and super fun. What is the Spuckler empire doing next? What are you working on at the moment?
Such a good question. So we are actually working on scaling up our low ticket. And so I know we talked about this briefly before we started recording, so I'll kind of weave it in here is, I had this realization this year, and it's not to dog on anybody or say anything negative about anybody, but, I kind of came to this point where I'm like, why is it so expensive to learn some basic stuff, right? Why is it $19.97 or $29.97 to get access to, I don't want to say entry level material, because that's not always true, but it's the material that gets you where you need to be. Right.
Right. Okay.
And, I started thinking where's the accessibility, right? Where's the accessibility for education? And so I was introduced by a friend, Angela Henderson, to the idea of low ticket products. And using low ticket products to build your business. And so I started creating some low ticket products. One specifically took off our challenge launch toolkit. I don't have the exact numbers, but I want to say we've got around 800 to 1,000 students in there, somewhere in that number. We've been promoting it we promoted it. We got about 200 people in, and then we've been more aggressively promoting it the last 2.5 months. And it's $37, and it's basically how I launch with challenges. And it is a pared down version of what used to be $1,000 course. And that was intentional, partially because people paid $1,000, right? You don't want to just take the exact content and then resell it for $30.
No, absolutely not. I've actually experienced that once.
Yeah. And so
it's not nice.
We took out, we didn't want to do that. So we took out key elements. We took out a couple bonuses. We reshot videos. We kind of redid the thing. So it takes about, the full course took about probably like 12 to 20 hours to get through and implement. This takes about 2. That just kind of gives you the frame of reference for the difference. But we sold it for $37. We've got about 800 to 1,000 students in it. And then we have some other stuff. We test like pop-up workshops for $37, $27. We've done a launch program for $37. It's like we call it the Launch Scaling Master Pack, which is like how to scale your launches if you've already had success. We had one on Facebook ads, which we're kind of revamping right now. And I think that's going to be a real winner, especially with all the iOS 14 changes going on. People are like really eager to figure out what's happening. But what we started doing was saying like, okay, let's like really build a community of people at a low ticket. So we also opened up a Facebook group. Anybody who buys a ticket or a low ticket product automatically gets invited to our community. We invited everybody who had bought. We got 150 people in. That was December 28th. We had 150 people in the group. We now have 440 in the group, 430, right around there, a month later. So we're adding about, 200 to 250 a month. That's kind of, we want to get even more aggressive than that. But we're building a community of people who are supporting each other, where they can ask questions of each other. And, I am kind of pushing back on this notion that like, the bigger the investment, the bigger the commitment, right? Because I'm seeing people getting incredible results at $37. Like I'm seeing it inside the community. And so I'm kind of challenging that norm. And then we launched a program, a full 12-week program. And generally speaking, let me back up. The program is around how to launch your digital product in 12 weeks, right? Generally speaking, a program like that is $997, $1497, $1997. We decided to price it at $297 for just the digital course. And, the other thing is we priced it at $597 if they wanted a weekly coaching call. And I thought, you know what, for $50 a week for, I show up on the coaching call and I basically spend 2 to 3 hours. If there's questions, I answer them. They go 2.5, 3 hours. And I thought, you know what, that feels like an accessible price point. I can justify that. And if you're not ready for that, you can work with me for $37. Right. But what I find is that the people who invest in 37 love content and kind of send up. So I'm giving them the tools at a low ticket to get what they need: Facebook ads, launching, scaling. And I'm giving them those tools at a very accessible price point, putting them in a community of support, and then offering additional trainings at industry challenging price points. And, I had a couple of people who were like, if you play that game, then people could just underprice you. And I'm like, I guess that's true. Sure. It's like anything else. It's
like, this is one of the biggest BS things that drives me nuts. Like, the only way you can get coaching from Joanna Hunter, well, honey, you're looking at it. I'm it. In this planet of 7.9 billion people. I always have a load of different price points. And one of the reasons I was so passionate about doing the $1 million experiment for $25 for a whole year experience was that back in 2015, I literally did not have 2 pennies to rub in an envelope. I'd be like, let me sign up. Like any free content I would sign up to. And people like Kimra were the shining stars for me in that moment because, she offered great content that was free. And it was so important to me because it's what gave me my leg up to be able to afford the bigger, higher ticket price courses. Yep. And so a big driving force for me was with the $1 million experiment was, oh my God, 2015 Joanna would have freaked out if she had saw a year-long program for $25. She would be like, oh my God, give it to me. So I kind of made it for an earlier version of myself. And that just didn't have the money to invest. And I was really passionate when I heard you talk about why does it always have to be expensive? So like I've done like empath training for $27. Like I've created lots of little programs and things. I teach people how to make an entire Oracle deck for $49. Like these price points, like it doesn't mean that it's not quality content. It can be absolute quality content. And what I hope with my lower ticket and I give a lot of really powerful free content is the hope that what's going to happen is that they elevate through that process. They elevate through that where they can come to a place where they can afford to invest in higher price points and things. And I love that you're leading the way with this.
Yeah, that's so key. And I think I love what you're saying, because it's not, we hear like ascension model or move people up the ladder. And it's more like, how do we elevate people from where they are, right? Because some people just, like, if you're working a job and you're week to week and your whole goal of entrepreneurship is to get out of that, then you don't want or shouldn't be spending $2,000 on a course. And that's okay, right? And I think that what has really gotten to me is this pervasive message of like, well, if you don't invest in yourself, then you're not serious about your business. And it's like, some people just can't do that right now, right? And I'm not an advocate of like taking on debt or taking out a loan or just throwing on a credit card.
Shame marketing is rife in our industry, and I'm with you. It has to stop. The shame marketing, telling people like, you will die if you don't buy this course. I say to people really like openly, I will say to people, even in my more expensive courses, like, dude, you would be able to figure out everything. It will just take you longer, but like, fill your boots. You can figure it all out. Like, it's, your life is not gonna, like, you will be okay without me. Like, it will be okay without me. Like, I will just shorten the learning curve for you, but it will be okay without me as well. So don't ever put yourself under that pressure that, oh my God, if I don't do this now, then my little world is going to implode. And I really, I see so much of that marketing. And I mean, I'm not being very fair to the blokes. I call it bro marketing.
Oh, 100%.
And it is, and it's that kind of locker room, like when you see the guys like bashing chests against each other, like, and I get that image in my head, and I think, but I think there is a gentler way to do it. I think there is a really lovely way where we're empowering and elevating, which I think does the planet more favors than a bunch of people scared that they're going to like die with their dream still inside them if they didn't invest $2,000 in a program.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just love the way your positioning is like, can you get people results before they're investing thousands of dollars? And I think the other thing to like just touch on is that I'm not opposed to those price points. Like, for one of our coaching programs, it's $1,800 for 12 weeks, right? And it's a small coaching program, 13 people, but it's high touch. And I've worked in this industry for years. I've got the clout. I've got the I don't want to say clout. That's not the right word. I've got the experience and the results that I can transfer to people, right? And so I think, this whole notion that the only way to do it is high ticket, or that high ticket is the best way, or, especially in our industry, it's just like, that is the message, is like, sell high ticket, create an experience. It's way easier to generate one customer than it is to generate 1,000. And it's like, maybe that's true. Maybe it is easier, but is easy.
I don't think it is, because to be honest, I have lost count of the amount of entrepreneurs. I call it entrepreneurs are looking for the lift pass, right? They're on the ground floor. They're searching everywhere for the lift pass, but in where the lift is, the doors of the lift are right there, but they just don't have a pass to get into the lift, right? But right next to the lift is this staircase, right? and they won't take the stairs. They're like, no, I'm not going to increment my way up to the high ticket. I'm not going to, no, I'm going to sell this $10,000 program because I'm like literally wet behind the ears. I've just come out of coaching school. They said do high ticket, right? And they're so stuck on it. And then, I'll speak to them and then, maybe they'll decide like, oh no, Joanna's like offering the staircase. No, I thought you had a lift pass. No, dude, I don't sell lift passes. I will teach you how to be a badass at climbing stairs. And so they're like, no, like this. And then they'll rendezvous back with me in like 2 years' time. And they're still on the ground floor, still looking for the lift pass. And I'm like, dude, the lift passes are being handed out on the staircase. Like, you start walking and then someone gives you a little leg up, and like, like I had somebody in my early days share my Facebook page, and overnight like 300 people had joined my Facebook page. I was just like, that's a lift pass, right? That's like someone sharing you because they liked you. But if I hadn't climbed the stairs in the first place, that person would never have shared my Facebook page out, and 300 people overnight would not have jumped in. That was a little lift pass for me, right? And there's many times in my life where there's been these little lift passes that I've found on the staircase, but we don't find them on the ground floor. And I've lost count of the people, and they're stuck in that inertia where they could just be learning to just take one foot in front of another, just doing it consistently, trying things, and then growing, which I think, and I love that you're making that really accessible for people. I love that you are building a community that's designed to elevate, because I think that elevation is so important instead of shame marketing and fear marketing, which is like really, it's hard going, I think, for people. And I think people have got enough problems in life that they don't need to be shamed into getting results.
Exactly.
So tell us, what is your, like, what's your plans for the future? Like, what's your big vision for your future? Like, what would you love to see happen in your community and see happening in the industry? Because we've had a little pop at the industry today, but I think, you know, it needs it. It needs some, like, I think, and also as well, I see a lot of people who do shame marketing because that's the only way that they've been taught.
Yep.
They didn't realize that there was another way. And then when they come into like my world and probably into your world, and they start to realize like, oh, there is other ways to do this. Because I believe that there's many ways to get a result. And so you just have to find the way that works for you. So tell me what your plans are for continuing with your message and continuing to expand.
I mean, for us, we want to reach 10,000 people this year. You know, that's a pretty lofty goal. We want to get 10,000 people inside our Facebook group, which means we have 10,000 customers, and start elevating people and helping them get results and moving them forward so that they do want to invest $297, $597, $1,800. You know, my one-on-one prices. It's like we want to elevate people. We want to move people up, not for the sake of like, oh, let's generate more revenue, but for the sake of let's get more people the information that they need to get results. And you know, I think there is going to be a shift in the industry. I think it's already happening with all of these low ticket products that we're seeing pop up, which is, you know, it's novel to our industry, but it's not this new concept that we've created it to be like,
no.
Oh my gosh, look what we invented, right? It's like, we used to be able
no,
to do
it's
this
not like that.
with mail in, you know, get the DVDs for just $5 and then we'll upsell, you know, it's a process, right? And it's been around for a long time. But I do think that that's becoming more pervasive, where people are like, I can just access this information for $20, $30, $40, $50. And I'm not saying that there's not merit to high ticket courses. You know, I just invested in $1,000 course a couple days ago. What I am saying is that I think that people are looking to be able to access the information you offer at a reasonable price to see what your premium offerings are before they invest high ticket.
Awesome.
And I think that is a shift that is happening in the industry that we're seeing universally. And as marketers, the message is, oh, attract buyers, attract buyers, attract buyers. And I'm not saying that's not true. I think that is true, that you're attracting buyers and buyers are more likely to buy again. Like, we know that. What I think is happening is people are saying, wow, I can get access to the basic information that I need to make a decision about if this is the person I want to work with. And up to this point, the only way to do that has been a 60-minute webinar, a 3-day challenge. And it's like, you have to make this split-second decision. You know, in the grand scheme of things, card opens 4 days. That's a split second in our lifetime. You have to decide if this person who is incentivized to show up for 3 days is your new mentor. And I think that is what's shifting. And if you're in business, and, you know, I'm not saying I don't advertise my webinar to cold people or my challenges to cold people, because I truly believe in what I offer. But what I am saying is, if that's not the right path for somebody, they need to have an alternative path. And I think that's the shift that we're going to start to see, is alternative paths, whether it be books, whether it be $37 products, whether it be incredible free content. I think that's where the industry is headed, that people are looking for quality content at affordable prices to decide if they're going to invest high ticket with people.
I love that. I love that. I think, I mean, I just think of where I started in life and what gave me my little legs up, I suppose, in a way. Like what helped me was people who were willing to give amazing free content. And then my first investments were low ticket because that was literally all I could afford in the beginning. But what I've been able to achieve and grow in 6 years has been little short of miraculous and amazing. And now I have no problem investing in higher amounts and things like that. But I'm a lot more savvy. And, it breaks my heart a lot when I hear students that come to me and they're new students and I hear how they like basically hired, they got courses that was a lot of money, but they weren't really ready for a course like that. Because I think also as well, like I think there's a thing in the industry where it lulls you into like, sure, you can do this. And yeah, the truth is, sure, you can do this, but are you ready as a human to do this? Because, there is certain things that you have to be willing to learn and do. And I think the biggest for me anyway, on a mindset perspective, was I literally had to get out of my own way. And I don't know if that's something that you've experienced.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, the biggest thing is that people have this perception, I think, that entrepreneurs are like, I'm doing it and I'm committed and this is perfect and I feel great about it. But I would be lying if I didn't say that there are times where I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have posted that, or what are people going to think? Or like yesterday, I actually posted in my private group and on Instagram. I was like, I've only posted on Instagram 25 times in the last year. And I have a friend of mine who likes to say, like, why are people being judged by how frequently or consistently they post on social media? There's plenty of people making decent money. And I shared my revenue number for the year and I was like, and I did it in the moment, totally fine, felt good about it. And then at night I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe people are judging. Maybe that's not enough revenue for people in the group. Maybe it's too much revenue for people in the group. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe people are going to think it's gloating. Maybe people are going to think this. Maybe people are going to think that. And it's like, you have to just be okay with it. Right. And, full transparency, there's times where I've written a post, been like, this is great. We get great interaction. And then I go, I don't know. And then I hide it. Right, on my own timeline. And that's me getting in my own way. It has nothing to do with other people. It's
a mindset game all the way through. It is a mindset game.
And I love that you call it a game, because we think you can, like, you can't, it's a game you can't win. Right. And that's where I think people get hung up, is like, when I do this, then it'll be perfect. When I do that, then it'll be perfect. And that for me was the biggest.
I love that you brought this up.
Is you will never get to a point where anything is perfect, what you want. Like, I remember my first year in business, I thought, okay, when I hit 6 figures, I'm going to quit my job. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to feel great. I hit 6 figures and I was like, the first thing I'm going to do is treat myself. I used to be a real sneakerhead, which translation, it just means you like to buy sneakers.
Or if you're in the UK, trainers.
Yes. So I used to buy a lot of trainers in like really bright colors, over the top. Absolutely love them. I still have about 15 pairs, but I really downsized from like 50. But I really love
almost like camping.
Yeah.
You're slumming it with 15.
I know. So but I was like, when I hit 100,000, I'm going to pay retail. I used to always buy my sneakers on sale. I'd eye them up, wait for them to go on sale, scoop them up. And I was like, I'm going to pay retail for a really nice pair of shoes, which can be like $150, right? And I bought it. I went to my car and then I just started crying because I was like, this doesn't feel any different than it did 20 minutes ago. This is the same feeling. I'm the same person. Nothing has changed. And to me, that was like the big aha moment for my mindset journey, was like, you'll never, a lot of times you're like, when I blank, then I'll blank. And it's like, no, you have to be what you want to be, or experience the world the way you want to experience it, or you're never going to feel that way. And so for me, it's like finding joy in little things, starting the candle company. Or I'd be lying if I said I'm not a shopper. I do like to shop. I've gotten better at it. I'm not using it as like this filling the void thing, but I'll be like, hey, I did well. I'm going to treat myself. It doesn't make me a better, worse person. It's just exciting to buy something new. get that little hit of dopamine and move on. But I'm not like, when I hit 300K, then I'll buy this and that's going to make me feel fulfilled. It's more like, hey, when I hit 300K, I'm going to buy this thing because I want this thing. I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be fun. And it doesn't say anything about who I am as a person. It doesn't say anything about who people who can't buy these things are as a person. It's just a thing.
I think
And
it's so good.
Game changer for me.
And I wrote about this in my first book, Get Selfish, The Way Is Through, and how I lived my life in this trap of I will be happy when. And I think many people live in this trap of I will be happy when, but the problem happened in my first businesses. I created 4 6-figure businesses. There were brick and mortar businesses, and one was a spiritual events pop-up company. And it was always I will be happy when. So I always had a goal and I would reach a goal and I still wasn't happy. So then I would set another goal and I would be happy when I reached that, and so forth. And on paper, I had it made, but I was miserable because I was just living in this loop of I will be happy when. And it really is an illusion. It is such an illusionary thing that we humans do. And we're not, we have to choose to, what you're really describing is really choosing to be happy now, choosing for it to be okay now, choosing for the work to be fine for right now that you're putting out, instead of trying to strive for that perfection and never putting the work out into the world. Like so many people are caught in this thing of like, well, I'll put it out when it's perfect. And I'm like, but you get to perfect and then you can see another horizon and you're like, oh no, I'll wait until I get to that horizon. And then you're just constantly chasing. So I love that you brought this up because I think it's such a real, and it is a mindset game. I believe that we can win the mindset game, but it is a game because it's meant to be fun. I think for the soul, it's super fun. For the human, we're like, where is the off switch to this game? Because it is freaking me out right now. But I think to our soul, a lot of the things that we get up to as humans is exciting and fun and things like that. And I like to shift into soul perspective. Talking a little bit about the soul and things, just before we wrap up, how important to you is intuition? Because you've obviously been at this for a long time. So is intuition something that you tap into, or is it like, no, that is not my jam?
Oh, I'm big on intuition. Like, go with your gut, right? And I tell people, your business is just a big experiment, right? You're going to shift, you're going to change, you're going to evolve. The Apple of 1993 is not the Apple of 2021, right?
Yes,
and that's okay.
Exactly.
It's just a big experiment, right? Just have fun. But yes, I am a huge fan of intuition. I follow my intuition. When I get an idea, I usually run with it. My poor team is usually like, what did you do last night? And I'm like, I started a thing. I don't do that as much anymore. I've gotten better. But yeah, I mean, I'm really big on intuition and just following your gut. And, I think that sometimes we make intuition out to be this really like ethereal, abstract, hard to attain thing, when intuition is just, if it feels good, do it. Right?
Yes, I love that.
And yes, it's got its nuances. I'm not diminishing people who do intuition work, but what I am saying is, like, if it feels good, run with it, right? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we see,
but even if it doesn't work, you still learn something. Like every time I followed an intuitive hit, like when it's not worked, like whatever it is, I've learned something valuable that was invaluable for the next intuitive hit. Like I needed that, and that next thing worked so well, but I needed the lesson from the first thing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
100%. And even like, our candle business, like, is this maybe the best way to do it? Probably not. But like, we talked about it for about 30 minutes, my partner and I was like, all right, like I'm feeling that intuitive pull, let's do it. And we logged on, we found a supplier, we bought a bunch of stuff. We did it in like an hour and a half and we just ran with it. And it's been working great. Right. And what I will say about intuition, and this is just to throw it out there, is like, I think of intuition almost like the stock market or a new business venture, in that you should not follow your intuition. Don't use intuition to make poor choices, right?
Right.
Sometimes people are like, oh, I just feel really called to this, so I'm going to invest money I don't have because my intuition is telling me this could be good. I've worked with people on various launches who are like doing their first or second launch, and they're like, I feel really good about this, so I'm going to plop down all my money, right? And my thing is like, if don't invest time, energy, money, focus more than you're willing to say that was a waste, right? And that is my mantra for everything that I do, right? I have two really clear mantras is like, am I willing to lose at this game that I'm about to play? And do I sincerely believe I can double my investment, right? So anytime I buy a course, start a venture, do a thing, I ask myself, do I see this potentially doubling what I'm spending to do it? And am I willing to lose, right? Because as entrepreneurs, people are like, dream big and set your expectations and do your mantras and do all these things. And it's like, that is all good and well. And I'm not saying don't visualize yourselves as a success, do all those things. But sometimes, especially I think in the entrepreneur space, we see the memes, we see the inspirational content, we see the, failure is the only way to get to success. We don't really take that in and realize that like, you are going to fail. You are going to mess up. And there are real world consequences to failure. And that's okay. Just know what those consequences are when you.
As long as you're willing, it's okay as long as you're willing to pay the price, isn't it?
Exactly. And I don't
so yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So that
would
be my only like little asterisk on intuition. I use it all the time. Love it. Stand by it. But I also ground myself in like very logistical, logical thinking too.
Awesome. Well, I have absolutely loved and adored to speak with you today, Zach. It's been so good. I think there's been so many nuggets inside this podcast. So I tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, so if you want to connect with me on the interweb, Instagram at Heart Soul Hustle, or you can head to heartsoulhustle.com. We've got all of our low ticket products featured right there on the homepage on our courses tab. So if you want to get in our private community, low ticket to enter, and we'd love to have you. And you can find something that serves you, whether it's Facebook ads, challenge launches, launch scaling. We've got something for you, and we would absolutely love to support you with that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And thank you guys for joining us on the Into the LightWeb podcast in our $1 Million Lab series. And I hope that you really enjoy it. It's a bye from me and a bye from Zach.